We are your home theater and AV questions answered. This is AVRant. Want your home theater or AV question answered by Tom and Rob? Send it to question@avrant.com.
Anyway, moving on to David B. on Facebook. David has finished his basement home theater room, and now it's time to connect and configure his speakers. That's exciting. He's using a Marantz SR5011, and he has 7 speakers total. The front 3 speakers are easy. And by the way, on the podcast here, we're showing the deconstructed room.
That's how it started, and then it's quite the transformation, huh?
His finished room is just sexy. I'm just here to tell you. It's the red and black color theme. I dig, man. I'm into
it. Reminds me a little bit of, what would it be, like maybe 2001?
Yeah, a little to that. But for me, it's a little 80s retro. Like I want a Nagel picture hanging. Anyway, front 3 speakers are easy. They clearly connect to the front left, front right, and center speaker binding posts. But the 4 remaining speakers are all in ceiling. Since his couch is up against the back wall, 2 of the in ceiling speakers are basically in line with his couch, like right over his head. And they're about 3 feet out to either side of the couch. The last 2 speakers are about 4 feet in front of the couch and the same width apart as the front left and right speakers. Which speakers get wired to which binding post on the back of his Marantz, and what should they be called in the speaker setup menu? That is a very good question. My first instinct is that those that are right above your head and off to the sides, that's awful close to where just regular surround speakers are supposed to go. And so my instinct would be to just make those, like in a regular 5.1 system, make those your surround speaker.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah, he's got an SR5011, which can connect 7 speakers, and that's it. That's where it maxes out. Can't do 9, can't do 11, so he tops out at 7 speakers. Okay. Absolutely right. The front 3, fairly obvious. That's your front left, center, front right. But yes, the 2 speakers that are more or less directly over your couch and spread wide apart, those should be connected to your surround left and surround right binding posts.
There you go.
Now, the 2 speakers that are in the ceiling in front of your couch a little ways and closer together.
When he's sitting on the couch, they're 4 feet in front of his face and up on the ceiling.
That's correct. Yeah,
that's right.
That's where they are. Those should be your Atmos speakers, and I would probably label them as top fronts. The way that the angles work out, that's where they're going to be.
Because they're in front of you. They may not be in the front of the room, but they're in front of you.
That's right. So, the little tricky part is that on the back of the Marantz SR5011, there are no speaker binding posts that say top fronts. They say surround back. That's what they're labeled. And those are the ones you have to use for your top front speakers.
Your top front speakers are labeled
surround back on the back of that Marantz AV receiver. The ones that say surround back are assignable.
Okay.
Right? So they can be assigned. Those could end up being your zone 2 speakers. They could be front heights. They could be top fronts. They could be top middles. They could be Dolby enabled upward firing front speakers. Those are the assignable speaker binding posts. So I completely understand someone being confused. They're like, I have 2 more left over that say surround back. Not only that, if I went from the front of the room to the back of the room, why are the ones that are up in front of me connected to the binding posts that say back? All of this stuff is understandably confusing.
Much like that Pioneer earlier that should have labeled things differently.
Right.
They should have said surround back / assignable.
Yeah, and it might even be written on there assignable somewhere, but nevertheless, your front 3, pretty self-explanatory. The 2 that are over your couch and spread wide apart, those are connected to your surround left and right, and the 2 that are in the ceiling in front of you physically connect to the binding posts that say surround back. And when you do the setup, you should call them top fronts. So that's the solution here.
Makes sense to me. Moving on with his questions, he just has the one SVS PC 2000 subwoofer for now. It's kind of back and to the left if you're sitting on the couch. He did a subwoofer crawl. Realistically, there were only a few spots in his room where it could go, just like we talked about earlier. And along the back wall to the left of the couch is where it sounded best. The instructions say to start with the subwoofer's volume knob at the halfway point. After running Odyssey, he more or less felt like he wanted to turn the subwoofer up a bit at all times. So what should he do? Turn it up. Should he set the subwoofer's volume knob higher and then run Odyssey again? No. Just turn it up. That's why the second half of the knob exists. It's okay, man. You want more? You got more. And so he's wondering, is this an indication that he actually needs a higher output subwoofer? No, it outputs more. Turn it up. Go for it. Grab the knob. Turn it.
Lee's pretty much correct. Now, sometimes instead of turning the knob on the back of the subwoofer up even higher, you can just go into the AV receivers menu and increase the subwoofer's trim level a little bit.
Because looking at the size of his room, that sub, that PC2000,
it should be fine. Should be fine.
Handle it. So.
And he's only left it at halfway, and we don't even know where the trim level was set by Odyssey. It might have been set to -8 for all we know.
True.
Right? With the volume knob already set halfway up.
As someone who's been disappointed with what the receiver thought I ought to get bass-wise, I totally feel him on that.
Yeah, no, this is totally common. I mean, most people, Tom included, prefers having the subwoofer output goosed a little bit.
Yeah.
I want a little bit more, because Odyssey goes for pretty darn flat. That's one of the criticisms some people had. That's why some people really appreciate that new Odyssey app that allows you to manually change the target, which is actually another solution to this, because his receiver is new enough that it does work with that Odyssey app. So there's a few things. There's a few ways to come at this. One, you could pay the $20, get the Odyssey app, manually change the target so that the bass has a little bit of a rise to it instead of being a perfectly flat line. That's one way you could do it. You could, like Lee says, just turn up the volume dial on the back of the subwoofer. That is okay. You could manually increase the trim level of the subwoofer inside the Marantz AV receiver. Or if you haven't tried dynamic EQ already, that's the first thing to try, is having dynamic EQ turned on, because if you're like most people, you're not listening at full reference volume. You're probably listening at -10, -20, something below reference volume.
TV shows, my amp always says -25.
Sure.
Or if I'm watching something exciting, it'll say -15. If it's a live concert, maybe I get on up around -10. But
either way, below
zero.
Below full reference volume, which would be 0 on the volume dial. So
no, I've never put it on 0. That would be scary.
If that's the case, then dynamic EQ will actually increase the volume of your bass to keep everything audible. So multiple ways to come at this, but you are absolutely not wrong for going, you know what? I don't really like just having completely flat bass. I would like a little bit more. That is totally fine.
Yeah, man. If you want to add some seasoning to that, you do it. Have fun.
Want your question answered? Send it to question@avrant.com. This is AVRant.
Now go out and listen to something.